private.
Sure.
Hey, everybody. Hello, and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's 5 minutes before the hour, and we're doing our live Google Hangouts pre-show. Certified Ethical Hacker Charles Tendell is here.
Wait, look, there you go. That's better.
There it is. Okay, all right, good enough. And we're going to be doing a very interesting show tonight. We're going to be talking about something called the brain-computer interface. And inevitably,
We are the Borg.
we are the Borg, yes, exactly. And also, because he has such an interesting, has an interest, such a large interest in this technology, I've asked our producer, to me, if he could be on the show. So his name's Aaron Crossman. He's also my son. He's also the producer of the show, and he's here in the Google Hangouts with us. I assume that he's also in the brand new Computer America chat room, which we're launching tonight, courtesy of Charles Tendell. Got all that up and running.
The awesome Charles Tendell, I think.
Awesome. Is it the awesome? Okay. Okay.
The master of awesome.
Yeah. By the way, sitting if you're watching us on the video stream, you can also see sitting next to Aaron is our associate producer and booking goddess Carissa Green. So she's also kind of watching this too. And we'll be getting started momentarily here on the show. So sit back, relax, join the show. We'll be on in less than about 3.5 minutes. So everybody's in the chat room. Charles is in there.
3 minutes until.
Can we talk again?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So yeah, Blizzard Entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing this is going to be a new way to interface with the game.
Well, I was actually there a few times. I gave a workshop with these guys from Google Technologies. And the reason is they already have a way you can play World of Warcraft with a brain-computer interface. And so we just went there to show it to them. You know, Blizzard doesn't make hardware, so we can't really work with them in that capacity. But basically we just thought they'd be interested, and some of the team was there at the talk, and someone came down and put on the BCI, and with very little training was able to play World of Warcraft. To clarify, it certainly wasn't as good as manual control, but it was reliable and accurate, and the talk, I believe, is publicly available. They recorded it and they sent me a copy. So.
All right. Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, my brother, the co-host of the show, he's actually really big into online gaming, and he's he always tells me it's always about like the clicks per second, just how fast you can control, and what is that going to mean when you can just think and it happens,
The critical event, in my opinion, and I have papers on this and stuff, is kind of what you're getting at. In other words, the total clicks per second, the total information output is greater with the BCI than without it. And at the moment, it's nowhere close. In other words, if I have a BCI and you have conventional tools, you're way ahead.
Right. But it's like the original typewriter, right? They could only type so fast before it locked up, and eventually they switched over to a digital one, and now it far outpaces. I mean, it's the potential I would like to think is probably much higher with your mind than with your hands.
Oh yeah, I mean the DCIs are still very much in their early phases, so there's a lot that will happen.
All right, Brendan, I'll put you back on mute and stay there.
All right, comb your hair.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers. Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
There's a dog! I see a dog! And I'm your co-host, certified ethical hacker. See, my shirt says hacker.
I see that.
Charles Tendell.
But it needs to be larger. I mean, it's so small, the word hack. I can barely see it on your T-shirt. You need to make it bigger.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I was saying it's not big. It's really big. Okay, it looks great. And
All
I
right,
don't.
we'll leave it there.
What's the word underneath it?
It says, read it.
Azorian.io.
Yep.
Okay, cool. What is
Yep.
what is Azorian.io?
Azorian.io, that's my company.
Oh, of course. I knew it was familiar, but I just want to give you an opportunity to plug your company. What can I tell you?
Good job. Good job. Play it off, Greg. There you go.
So anyway, welcome into the it's a Friday edition of the Computer America Show. It's Friday. Yes, we made it once again. Now, a couple of things to kind of bring you up to speed here. For those of you who are joining us, look, if we've got some very entertaining guests here in the first hour. We're going to be talking about something called the brain-computer interface. Ooh, that sounds kind of Matrix kind of like. But we're going to be talking
about brain-computer in the face?
Interface, the brain-computer interface.
Whoa,
not in your face, interface. Okay, and by the way, now also a couple of new things here. We have a well. Let me do this first. It's since it's Friday, we're going to have a show reminder winner of the week. That's right. Some lucky person's going to win a really nice prize from our good friends over at Logitech. Now, here's the deal. If you have questions about what we're talking about tonight, give us a call at 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. I'll get you on and get you through. Email is live, L-I-V-E, at computeramerica.com. You can also join us in our live interactive chat room. Now, here's where it differs because we're trying a brand new chat room tonight. That's right.
Now, the chat room now is hosted on Freenode, so if you've got your favorite IRC tool, you can join us over on Freenode. It's hashtag Computer America. I'm there, Craig's there, Fort's there, Addison, everybody, all the normal people are there.
Here's what you do. Just go to ComputerAmerica.com. Right there on our homepage, you'll see it says chatroom/video. There's a button right there. Just click that, and you'll go to the screen where it'll ask you, when you go there, what does it ask you? It asks you for your username and password, and because I had not really done it before, but you'll be presented with the chat room page. It'll ask you for a nickname. That's it. The channel is already there. You'll ask for a nickname. You'll put in a nickname. That's the name you'll be known by when you go into the chat room. Click the connect button after you put in the keywords there that you'll see, and your browser will take you right into the Computer America chat room. Now, also, for those of you with Firefox or what have other browsers, if you want to load the Chatzilla client, you can do that too, and it just makes the experience a little bit more pretty. It has a nicer graphical user interface, so you can use that as well. And but anyway, we welcome you to join the show in our Computer America chat. Now, sharing that very same page is our live Computer America video streaming page, and that's brought to you by Other World Computing. Quality products, expert support since 1988, now visiting its 25th anniversary, and it's right there. You see it on the video if you're watching it.
You're missing it. There you go.
Yes, www.maxsales.com is the website, and check them out. I mean, if you're looking for updates to your legacy Mac, for example, they go back to 1998. You get memory from them. How about a portable battery replacement for your legacy Mac? They have incredible deals. Plus, by the way, they have installation videos. They actually have their own YouTube channel too, so you can watch how everything is going on. Anything over $49, you get free ground shipping. 80% That's 2 days to 80% of the country, by the way. So it's very, very fast. Free shipping, over $49. They have everything too. Not only maxed up with PC stuff, they have for your PlayStation 4. They have upgrade kits. They got a 1 terabyte drive for $115. A 1 terabyte drive, you can add it to your PlayStation 4. They also give you a flash memory stick. They even give you a screwdriver to put it in. And of course, those amazing installation videos. Great prices. Head over there at www.maxsales.com. You're going to be very happy that we put you onto it. Okay. All right. So, anything else, Charles? Oh yeah. What am I? Oh yes. I mentioned the show reminder winner. Yep, we got that. We got the new chat room, and I think everything else is set. So we'll see. We have a lot of our chat room regulars are making it into there, so we're very pleased with that.
They're adjusting, but they're getting there.
They are getting there. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think let's. Oh, by the way, did I mention? I knew what I forgot to mention. Also in the chat, on our live video stream, and also with us here on the show, is the producer of Computer America, Aaron Crossman, who also happens to be my son, and he is with us in the
resemblance. He must look like his mother.
yeah, and the Google. He's adopted. Yeah. Hangouts with us.
But no less loved, I hope.
Yes, and none less loved. Yes, exactly.
Is he really adopted?
I have a picture frame that says adopted and loved. So.
A huge. Oh, I'm not even going to get into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Save that for another show. We'll dedicate an hour to the story.
Getting adopted into the Crossman family, that's got to be a big deal. There's got to be like paperwork and media requirements and press releases
and lots of begging. So
there were fireworks.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
So he's going to be now, because Aaron has a real interest in this brain-computer interface technology we're going to be talking about tonight. He asked because he's got his degree in chemistry and he's going to be going back to college to get his PhD. And very interested from a scientific point of view. Now, the little laughter in the background is Carissa Green. She's my associate producer and booking goddess, and she's kind of also with Aaron and watching the show as well. So you can see all of that, again, on the live computer video streaming page, again, brought to you by Otherworld Computing. So let's get to it. We'll get started here. Our guest this hour is from G.Tec. And we're going to be talking about, as I said, the brain-computer interface, or BCI. The BCI provides a new communications channel between the human brain and a computer. In other words, mental activity involves electrical activity, and these electrophysiological signals can be detected. The BCI system detects such changes and transforms them into control signals, which can be used for moving objects, writing letters, opening doors, changing TV channels, and other everyday household activities. This technology helps people with limited mobility increase their independence. One of the main goals is to enable completely paralyzed patients to communicate with their environment. Now, joining us to explain is Brendan Allison. Brendan is the consultant for G.Tec Medical Engineering. Hey, Brendan, welcome into Computer America. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. So this is kind of a cool technology. I mean, the brain-computer interface. Now, I kind of introduced it. Do you want to kind of explain what it is in your own words, or did I do a good enough job?
No, that's a good start. That's basically right. So what a BCI does is convert brain activities, usually an electrophysiological signal like the EEG, into some kind of output that you can use to spell or control computers or various tasks. And basically the way they work is the user produces some kind of voluntary mental activity. For example, you might think about moving your left hand versus moving your right hand versus flexing your feet. And these three different types of signals are pretty distinctly different when you have an electrode cap on. And so you might map that onto moving a cursor on the screen or controlling a robotic arm or something.
Okay. So I guess the first thing would be is how accurate is something like this? What kind of results are you getting?
Well, there's typically a trade-off, of course, between speed and accuracy. The more time that you have to study a user's brain signal, the better the accuracy is. And that's a big challenge, is to try to develop improve sensors and signal processing and new tasks and interfaces and such to make the systems faster. How fast are they right now? The best publications out there are on the scale of about 130 bits per minute. Another way to look at that is if you're spelling from an alphabet, if you have, say, 26 letters and a few other characters, each one is 5 bits. So you can get off on the scale of several letters per minute, several different signals per minute from an alphabet. And in terms of where things were several years ago, that's pretty good, but of course it's still much slower than typing or talking or most other forms of communication.
Yeah, Fort in the Star Fortress in the chat room wants to know if this will work with people with no brains, but I guess
no, brain-computer interface by definition requires a brain.
Okay. Okay, so what does someone have to do to use this brain-computer interface? Do they have to? Is there some sort of physical attachment? How do you interface with this? What do you do with it?
Well, in most cases, you have an electrode cap or other electrodes outside the head. And in the early days, pretty much everything was done with a full cap, where you had to, put a cap on and you had to squirt some electrode gel inside each electrode and rub the skin a little bit to get a good connection. And it was a fairly inconvenient procedure. And of course, when you're working with severely disabled users, you then have to wash the user's hair later, and well, it was challenging, and of course, it was discouraging to mainstream use. But basically, once you have that on, you can very grossly detect the brain's electrical activity in different regions. And so then the challenge is, what kinds of brain signals can you get? What can you detect? And the common misconception is that BCIs are sort of a literal translation device. So you might sort of form an image of an apple, or you might think about one word versus another, and somehow that's spelled out in the little squiggly lines. And in fact, that's not the case. We haven't been able to do that yet. That's why you instead have activities like imagining movement, or you might focus on a certain letter on the screen or something, and we can detect that brain activity.
Now, Charles, have you actually you haven't tried this out yourself, have you? I mean, this is something.
I wish. I mean, I'm waiting patiently to ask the question of, now, is this one directional? Does it only read stuff that my brain is doing, or can it manipulate brain waves into adding information into my head?
That's a great question, and a brain-computer interface is defined as something that reads from the brain, but there is other work with technologies that write to the brain, and perhaps one of the most well-known one is a deep brain stimulator, which can really help people with Parkinson's disease and some other conditions. So that's an example of a brain stimulation device. Some people call them a CBI, a computer-to-brain interface. So no, BCIs are just mind-reading devices, or not really reading, but scanning. They're not writing to the brain.
So you're telling me that, as my wife has stated, that I can now officially read her mind if I can get her hooked up to this machine?
You can hook her up to the machine, but you might be disappointed in how sparse the information is. So,
oh, man.
Not anything against her, but the idea that you can pick up her individual thoughts or her plans or something like that, you just can't do it. It's just a bunch of squiggly lines to us, and we can't really make much sense of it.
Man, so no reading my wife's complex brain, and yet I still can't download like helicopter flight training manuals into my head and learn kung fu.
That's the Matrix. That's the Matrix. We're not.
Yep. We can't do it. My best suggestion with your wife would be to talk to her.
That's so old-fashioned. That's like typing on a keyboard. What's up with that?
Well, they had a group in Seattle came up with a combination that you were talking about, with a brain-computer interface that could read someone's intent to move the hand, and that could trigger another system, the computer-to-brain interface, that would make someone else move their finger. So that is the the very beginnings, perhaps, of some sort of mental telepathy, although in a pretty crude way.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So what are these three major approaches to BCI?
Well, the first one is the one I was describing before with imagined movement. So again, the big challenge is not so much forming specific images or thoughts, but performing mental activities that are really obvious in the EEG. And it turns out that movement is one of them. So if you simply think about grasping a tennis ball or moving your left hand, even if you don't actually perform the movement, you can pick that up pretty well and distinguish it. The second major approach involves visual attention to objects on a screen or elsewhere. So it turns out if you have, say, a lot of letters on a screen and you flash one row or one column at a time, you can tell from the brain's response to each flash whether the user is paying attention to that spot. So, for example, if you have a matrix of letters, and it is in fact a matrix, you have like a 6x6 matrix with, for example, you could have the English alphabet and 10 numbers there, and you flash rows and columns, and you can determine which of those the user is interested in. And the third approach is similar. You're looking at a monitor, and instead the items oscillate at a certain frequency. So it's really straightforward from an engineering perspective. You might have the letter A would, for example, oscillate at 8 hertz, and if you detect that oscillation in the EEG, well, what that reflects is neurons in visual areas that are interested in that. So those are the three major approaches. One is motor imagery. The last two are based on different kinds of attention. And a quick other comment is that you can also adapt these for non-visual approaches. So, for example, you can make auditory or tactile versions for users who can't see.
Now, how portable is this? I mean, if people who can't see, is this something they could take out in the street with them? You know, or is it still not to that point yet? It's to need a lot of lab equipment.
No, they're actually surprisingly portable now. So that's been a huge improvement. So actually, the first patient that I worked with when I was working in New York in 2003, we had to take a suitcase full of equipment to go and work with them. And now it's to the point that they're getting rid of the need for a separate amplifier. So, for example, there's a new product called the Nautilus system from G.Tec, and you just put on a cap, and there's a little transmitter on there, and then you stick a USB device into your computer, and that's it. So in terms of portability, both weight and bulk, it's down to the scale of most head-mounted devices. The other critical issue, though, is robustness in field settings. So can you take it outside? That used to be very difficult because there's a lot of electrical noise, but they're actually pretty good right now.
Okay. Well, what kind of success are they realizing with this? I mean, can you give us an example of how this brain-computer interface would be used, let's say, by a non-sighted person, and how they would actually use it?
Well, sure. One of the really exciting but also kind of haunting new directions is that several different groups have been finding that some persons who are diagnosed with disorders of consciousness, such as in a vegetative state or coma, may actually be able to communicate with a brain-computer interface. So you might, if you're interested in the research, you might look up the Decoder project, the word decode and then an R in the EU, or the Mind Beagle system. So to give you an example of an application for a non-sighted person, many of these people have their eyes closed. And what this Mind Beagle system can do is it's designed for end users who are not experts but might be family or friends of someone with such a diagnosis. And so what you would do is you would put the system cap on the user's head, and the user, you'd put on headphones or a small vibrotactile stimulator on the left wrist or the right wrist. And so I mentioned before that you can tell if someone is detecting a visual object at a certain frequency, and that also applies to touch. So if one stimulator is a certain frequency and the other one vibrates at another frequency, or they just briefly pulse, on each side, you can ask the patient yes or no questions, and if you see a reliable differential response in the EEG, then that may indicate that the person has the ability to communicate. So this is an example of a non-sighted person who would be able to at least, for example, control bed position, maybe adjust music, change the room temperature, and basic tasks like that.
Really, it really sounds. Aaron, I know you have a couple of questions that you've been wanting to ask. So why don't you talk to Brian? Yeah, go ahead.
Right after this break. Wait.
Oh,
Is it
no,
time for a break?
no, not yet.
Okay. Oh, that's not very nice, Charles. Got me good.
So well, it was great.
Brendan, actually, I have a question that I've sort of been thinking about as the show's been going on. It might be a little involved, but there's been a lot of impressive breakthroughs in engineering and robotics. I was reading an article a couple months ago about how it was a group for, I think it was a major airline manufacturing group. They developed a robot that was almost like an extra set of arms on their shoulders. They called it like a robot on your shoulders. And I was wondering, this technology is useful for someone who might have lost an arm and is trying to control a prosthetic arm, but could it also be used for someone who might have an extra set of arms to sort of assist them? Could you control more than your own arms with this?
Well, let me think. In theory, yes. Of course, that would raise serious ethical questions, but
Aaron wants to become a centipede. So
No.
No.
Wait, who's the Spider-Man character?
Maybe.
Yep.
So
yep.
something that might be a little bit less of an ethical dilemma. What about situations where they're working in rather harsh environments? Say they're working at the bottom of the ocean, or astronauts who don't want to, who would like to avoid a spacewalk if possible.
Yep.
Could you control limbs that are not your own using this technology?
Well, there is some work on that. So, for example, if you have a small mobile robot that's in a war area or an area with radiation or a chemical risk, that might give people very direct and immediate control of little mobile scouting devices. I think most of the robotics work with BCIs, though, has been focused on the first direction you mentioned, which is control of either a prosthetic arm or an arm that the user can no longer control. In other words, the arm might be otherwise healthy. You can engage the muscles, but it's not receiving any signals from the brain. And this direction has also been very popular with invasive BCIs, which I haven't mentioned yet. In other words, or intracortical BCIs, where an electrode is actually surgically implanted in the brain. And the reason for this is it can provide finer motor control. So right now, there are no systems that I know of that actually allow good control of a hand. In other words, that the human hand has 27 degrees of freedom. I mean, if you just hold your hand up and twist it around and move the fingers, there's really a lot that you can do with it. And picking up all those different signals for fine control is extremely challenging. But I think we'll see that in the relatively near future, which could be very helpful for a lot of people.
Right. So, does part of the special set of circumstances have to be that it's easier for your brain to interact with these devices and computers if it's sending the signal as if it was its own arm, as opposed to if you had let's say an extra set of arms and your mind isn't really used to thinking in that way, so that it can't really interpret that thought pattern. Does that have something to do with it, maybe?
Right. It's similar to, you may have heard of work with efforts to restore sight with retinal implants and other mechanisms. Mm-hmm. Similarly, there are cochlear implants that may be used for people with hearing difficulties. And one of the challenges is not just restoring the initial sensory function, but also helping the brain to learn that. If you've grown up without sight, your visual cortex is doing something else other than sight. And those kinds of signals can be very confusing. People often report that they have trouble seeing and they have headaches. It's disorienting. And so I would guess if you implanted an extra set of arms into an adult human, it would be very challenging.
Let me actually clarify the story I was referencing, the robot on the shoulders. It wasn't actually an implant to the human body. It was just sort of like a set of shoulder pads that just sort of rested there, and it would help them, like let's say if they were trying to lift a heavy piece of machinery up onto a rack, it sort of gave them some extra leverage and support for some of the harder movements that a really demanding industry job might require. I'm not suggesting we would create Dr. Octopus or anything.
No, I'm scared of that guy. He scares me.
Yeah, that is a true ethical dilemma there.
Right.
I don't think so, man. I think being Doc Ock would be great.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I could slap 8 people at once.
Yeah.
Well, and there is actually work with exoskeletons for example, to help gait restoration, so people who can't walk properly. So, for example, the Better project in the EU, just called BETTER, was working on that. There was another one called Mindwalker, which is an appropriate name. So that's also the start of it. I mean, in theory, of course, you could develop exoskeletons that even enhance these abilities further.
Yeah.
all right. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between invasive and non-invasive brain and computer interfaces. What's the difference? Well, actually, what are you talking about here?
Well, most BCIs that are published and used for research and patients and other kinds of things are non-invasive, and the difference is that in a non-invasive system, you just put a device outside the head. There's no need for surgery. There's no pain or breaking the skin or injecting anything or whatnot.
Okay.
An invasive BCI is a neurosurgical procedure, and so it's of course not something that you can use casually like a non-invasive BCI. It requires major ethical approvals, and the process is expensive and does entail a small risk and so on. And the invasive BCIs, as I mentioned, are mainly used for severely disabled patients. In other words, to my knowledge, there's been no case in which a completely healthy person used an invasive BCI, and I don't think that would be allowed right now for ethical reasons. But in cases where people, for example, as I mentioned, are trying to gain control of a prosthetic arm, you might not be able to move your hands as well, but you can control an arm, or you can do some other things. The surgery is often justified, and so the procedure on the one hand is not, in a sense, it's less invasive than, for example, implanting a deep brain stimulator, in that you're just putting electrodes on the surface of the brain. They might penetrate a little bit into the brain, but they're not being implanted deep inside the brain. But again, it is, of course, a medical procedure, and I'm looking forward to seeing more developments that would help make them practical for more patients.
All right. Okay. So it sounds to me that there's some risks. Obviously, that's why you have the two based on. What are some of the risks with the brain-computer interface?
Well, with an invasive BCI, you have the same risks as most neurosurgical procedures. There's a slight risk of infection is the main concern. And again, not to treat it too casually, but if you're in a good hospital and such, the risks are not that great. I mean, they can deal with infection and such. Another risk that was a major concern is how long would these systems last? What if you put a system in someone's brain and it doesn't work after a year? So the brain reacts in various ways, and it might think it's a foreign object. That concern has actually been kind of dealt with. So different studies have shown the systems can still provide good function even after several years.
Right. I'll tell you what. The music means we have to take a break, Brendan.
Okay. Sure.
You're listening to the Computer America Show on the Blog Talk Radio Network, on the Boost Radio Network, and on the IRN Radio Network. We're talking to Brendan Allison. He is the consultant for G.Tec Medical Engineering. We're talking about the brain-computer interface, or BCI. We got lots more questions for him. We'll be right back right after this.
Hey everyone, have you heard about the No hair removal device that's sweeping the globe? If you want to go weeks without shaving and get smooth, professional quality results, here's our favorite host, Cheryl, for No hair removal.
Thanks. Hey gals, I love talking about my No. It's this cute little hair removal system that you can take with you and use almost anywhere at home or on the road. No more expensive in-office treatments, painful waxing, and no more wasting your valuable time. Got unwanted facial hair? No has patented thermocon technology that works on all hair and skin colors, so it's perfect for you. This incredible $100 discount shopping card, and you don't. Try the incredible No hair completely risk-free. Call 1-800-953-5415. That's 800-953-5415. 800-953-5415.
Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission is to protect and enhance the lives of companion animals and the people who love them. Their no-kill rescue shelter is open year-round, making it easy for people to adopt their best new friend. This year, Brother Wolf will find homes for over 2,400 orphan dogs, puppies, cats, and kittens. All have ended up as an orphan through no fault of their own. Brother Wolf has created a safe, nurturing environment where these special animals can heal emotionally and physically until they find a lifelong home. Their life-saving transport program brings dogs and puppies from overcrowded shelters in the south to rescues in the north where homes are easier to find. Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is a 501c3 organization. To learn more about their life-saving work and to make a donation, visit their website at www.bwar.org. That's www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
Hi, this is Marty Winston for Computer America with a News Tips Bulletin Review of the Cross Tech 2 pen and stylus. We got in black and silver and blue models of the new Cross Tech 2 pens with a stylus at their top ends.
Yeah.
The fine point ballpoint pens need no description to anyone who has ever written with a cross.
I had one.
Except maybe to note that these do, as is traditional to the brand, twist to extend or retract.
Yep.
The new feature is the topside stylus. It works with capacitive touchscreens, most of what we have these days, and has some sweet surprises of its own. The designers finessed a dome that's a little narrower than most, and as a result, more precise when you use it. It's a lot more precise than a finger, and its light touch almost bounces back off the screen. Its walls are thin enough to forgive the small amount of brutishness that sometimes accompanies tablet use. The biggest news, if that stylus tip ever wears off, you can unscrew it and screw in a replacement. Bottom line, the Cross Tech 2 stylus and pen products add high touch to high tech on text touchscreens or on the more classic medium of paper. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
And thank you for that, Marty. We're getting used to the new News Tips Bulletin, and I always feel like he's dialing into my brain when he does that. It's kind of ironic. Yeah, it's ironic because that's what we're talking about right now. And we are we're talking to Brandon from G.Tec, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
You still have him muted, so you must unmute him, Craig.
Oh, yes, I did. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Well,
fail.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
I didn't mute you.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
And,
all right.
And Brandon, you were just telling us about some of the other applications of the more intrusive brain implant and all these other things. Now, I wonder, you guys are just reading electrical signals from the brain, right? Just the brain. You can't read, impulses from anywhere else, like like your eye movement or things like that?
Oh, you certainly can, and in fact, those signals are often much larger than brain signals. I'm just not going into them because they're not a brain-computer interface. So a BCI is defined as something that reads directly from the brain. But I think in particular, as they gain attention for consumer devices, head-mounted devices, and such applications, I think you'll see increasing integration of eye activity, muscle activity, and other kinds of signals. In other words, if you have a sensor, let's say you're wearing a headset or glasses or earbuds or something, if you have a sensor there that can pick up brain activity, it's also going to get a few other kinds of activity. You can't prevent it. And so you might have people who can answer phones or things like that through brain activity or by winking or clenching their teeth or whatever signals they choose.
Huh. Now, do you think that in the future, we're as the technology kind of evolves, we're going to be able to do things like actually intercept the signals from like your eyes and actually be able to see what someone wearing one of these devices is seeing?
Well, I think the easier way to do that would be the contact lens camera kind of technology they're working on. And the part of the reason is it turns out that what your brain sees electrically, that is, once you're picking up the EEG, it really has surprisingly little to do with the real-world representation. In other words, once the signal travels back from the eye and into the primary visual cortex, it's processed in a lot of different ways. You have areas that detect lines and different kinds of orientations and blobs that detect color. And so it's actually quite difficult to decode what someone is seeing from the EEG. As I'm mentioning, you can detect very gross things, like, for example, you can tell if someone chose to pay attention to a recent flash or chose to ignore it. But you couldn't, for example, tell what letter was contained in that flash just by looking at the EEG alone.
Cool.
Brandon, I know that this is probably been a little bit difficult to develop since the brain is still something that is very much new to us as we get in and explore exactly how it all functions and how all the neurons fire mean this and that. But there has been a lot of progress with BCIs for certain areas we've talked about. Different types of movements, being able to recognize when we're focusing on a particular thing shown to us. Do you think that the fact that our brains are very much, well, they're like, all of our brains are similar in some ways, such as movement, but do you think that eventually is that a problem for BCIs as they're being developed, seeing as how we all sort of think differently?
Well, with any BCI, you can typically improve performance by customizing to that individual user's brain activity. Mm-hmm. So that's answering your question in the sense that the differences between people's brains do matter, and with more training, usually BCIs can get more accurate. But that's much less of a problem now. In the earlier days of BCI research, systems sometimes required on the scale of weeks or months of training, and now they have some that can work pretty accurately just on a generic classifier. And with, say, 5 minutes of training data, you could be spelling at usually 100% accuracy with several characters per minute, several letters a minute. So if anyone's interested in this, examples of this, videos and such, there's a system called Intendix, so the word intend and then IX. And this is a home speller, so it's also made for end users. Anybody can buy it. You don't have to be a BCI expert. And with this system, you can spell. You can put a cap on your head and spell. You can produce some art. There's a game controller that has let people play Angry Birds and World of Warcraft and other such applications. And it's a lot of fun. It's fun to use, but it's for the hardcore gamers out there, it's not going to give you a critical advantage in terms of hits per second or anything.
So Brandon, would this now be considered a think and spell?
Yes, I actually love that metaphor. again, it's not like you think, APPLE. You don't think the individual letters out, but what you can do is you can watch a screen that flashes rows and columns, and by determining which rows and columns you're interested in, like you're silently counting, yeah, you can spell apple or anything you want.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of that was trying to be a word.
Implications.
A lot of implications for something like this. I mean, once it gets fully refined, I could totally see this being like, imagine a pilot, thinking and having the aircraft react, or the UAV pilot thinking and having his UAV react. It's one of those. The possibilities for this are endless, and I mean, how far has this technology come, and how long? I mean, how long have you guys been developing this?
Well, the first published paper that described a BCI was from 1973. It was from a Professor Jacques Vidal at UC Los Angeles. And for the next at least 20, 25 years, there just wasn't much work on it. And I think the technology was, correctly viewed as impractical for a lot of ways. Electrodes back then were very difficult to use by comparison, and the systems really didn't work very well outside of laboratories. And I'd say in the last few years, they've really come a lot further. A critical development has been dry electrodes, and along with that, wireless electrode systems. So the idea of a whole cap and an amplifier and cable sticking out is gone. You can put electrodes in, like I said, gamer mics and various other head-mounted devices. Another quick comment, since I know that a lot of your listeners are computer fans, even though this isn't a BCI thing. The same guy, Professor Vidal, was also, he had one of the 4 nodes of ARPANET back in the 1960s. So one of the 4 nodes was at UCLA. And Professor Vidal, I actually made contact with him a few years ago, and he gave a talk that you can find online. And he has sketches of the early ARPANET. So you can actually see one of the 4 nodes of the internet. And I think Professor Vidal is an underappreciated guy in tech history.
Wow, that's really cool.
What was the IP address of his location?
Jeez, I don't know. 1, 2, 3,
Number
or 4.
3, exactly.
Back then, they weren't IP addresses. It was just like 121, and that was it. Yeah. they were using actual host names across the internet.
Yeah. There was 4 nodes. It was like 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would think that.
maybe he was 4th node.
Yeah, 4th node or something.
Brandon.
Yes.
Every time I fill out one of these captchas, I almost feel like I'm, typing down a piece of a picture from somewhere that is useful to someone. And then I think I learned recently that they were actually using the CAPTCHA human verification type system to fill in a lot of the information to sort of harvest data from pictures. And doing so, they were both teaching computers to be smarter at recognizing, optical characters or optical recognition, but also, users of the internet were helping to complete this data set. And do you think that something similar might be possible with BCIs? If enough people start to use them, would it help refine the sort of general source? It would make it, the technology would understand, how people in general think a little bit finer and improve some of that fine tuning.
Well, I think it could, but that's a touchy subject, and it gets back to the ethical question earlier. So, yes, from a purely research perspective, if, say, thousands of people, let alone more, recorded their EEG all day and chose to send that data to anyone, to a research center, it could be very helpful for basic neuroscience and for studying a lot of different conditions, disorders. But of course, a lot of people might also be concerned that their brain activity might be read in other ways, and I think that it's the kind of thing that might scare people more than monitoring their click activity. I mean, the fact is, without a BCI, you can get a lot of information about a user just by seeing when that person sends email and that kind of stuff, how many clicks per second. over the course of a day. You can figure out sleep patterns and general activity patterns and all kinds of stuff. But of course, brain monitoring is sort of a special category, and I think should be more regulated. There should be some mechanisms to prevent that sort of thing.
So I take it then that privacy is a very big concern for G.Tec. I mean, you've been mentioned several times there are ethical considerations, and that's a very good point you brought up. I've been so excited about the new technology. I completely overlooked the thought that, hey, someone could be reading my mind. But you know, so is this something that's been, you know, part of the thought process through all phases of development? You know, you guys have really been thinking about this, or?
Well, not just G.Tec per se, but the BCI community. I mean, so I'm mainly an academic researcher, and I go to conferences, and then we do have, you know, panel discussions on ethics. We have book chapters where we recommend ethical guidelines. So we hope that we can prevent, you know, some kinds of concerns that people might have about, you know, for example, getting more information than you would intend from brain activity. And one of the big things that I'm happy to say is we're forming an actual society. It's called the Brain-Computer Interface Society. And it's several of the top experts in the field are doing this. We'll be presenting a poster and some other things at the next major conference in September in Graz, Austria. And this is one of the things we hope to do, is provide advice toward regulatory bodies about, you know, certifications and regulations, ethical guidelines. If large numbers of people start using BCIs, then I think that you do have some issues that need to be addressed. But one more quick comment. A lot of these systems aren't, in fact, sending your brainwaves anywhere. So, you know, a lot of times it's just a self-contained device. That is, you think something, your laptop figures it out, or even a chip on your head figures out that you're thinking about left versus right activity. Really doesn't require very much processing power at all with modern electronics. And so once it goes to your computer, it's the same as a normal input device. That is, you know, of course, the World of Warcraft system I mentioned, Blizzard did not design their software around BCIs, but they had a tool you can use called Lua, and so we're just simulating mouse signals. That is, nobody's getting any kind of brain activity.
Yeah, by the way, I just sent you a link to a BCI that was sent to us by one of our
Yep.
in the chat room.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that system, but...
What is this one? Oh, this is not. That's not a BCI. That's a cartoon.
Now, if you, well, you know, Jonathan in the chat room sent that. So, anyway, you know, we have a little fun with it. But you know, it's fun that the chat room participants kind of get in on this. So, basically, at this point, now are there any applications, new applications for healthy users with this, Brendan?
Well, yes. I mean, that's the big question mark in the field. Is, you know, what does it take to cross the chasm? Where exactly are BCIs in the hype cycle? And I think many people sort of have the general sense that way in the future people will be using direct brain activity for a lot of things, and I think, you know, that's probably true, but it's kind of simplistic. It's more interesting to think much more in the short term, given both the abilities and constraints of BCIs, which target users might be using BCIs in which situations. So for a healthy user, I like to use the term situational disability, which comes from the human-computer interface guys, where healthy people are often choosing not to have their hands available for some reason. So if you're driving or typing or talking or a variety of activities, you might not be able to use your hands or your voice for controlling interfaces. And in that case, perhaps a brain-computer interface could give you another option. I think the remote control is a great example as well. So I don't know for sure, but I gave a talk at Philips headquarters a few years ago, and I asked if they knew of anybody that still made TVs without remote controls, and they don't. And the remote control really seems like a device that might help someone who's not able to get up and change the channel. But in fact, the main application of a remote control is simply convenience. That is, you're not using the remote control because you're disabled. You're perfectly capable of getting up and pushing buttons on the TV. You just don't want to. So it's a function of convenience. If, in theory, you could do it even more easily from a headset, which at the moment you can't do, but they're getting pretty close, well, then people might start using those.
Wow. Instead of the regular. Now, but how practical is it? You know, I've always seen, for example, with a remote control, they say, "Oh, you just talk to the remote and now it'll work." You know, you don't have to. And you know, on the surface, that seems to be like something very, very cool. But quite frankly, I don't want to be going channel 3, channel 4, channel 9. Yeah, I just want to hit the button because I'm going to go much quicker. I'm going to do it better with a handheld remote than I can do it with my voice. You know.
Right.
And there's some things which are just better done with the technology that we're using today. Of course, there are exceptions, but I'm just saying for that's just one example of, well, you know, maybe if I would think of the channel, maybe that would sort. But you know, that to me might, you know, it might change the channel in the middle of something that I'm watching, and then it changes the channel because I'm thinking, you know, 4, you know, and it goes
right.
So I'm wondering if that's actually a practical application for something like that.
Well, you can avoid false positives, you know, in various ways, like you're describing. But I agree that at this time the remote control is the best choice for controlling a TV. BCI-based remote controls do well. I mean, and that's the main application right now or the main user group now is sort of enthusiasts, early adopters who are interested in it because they like futuristic things. In other words, they're not doing it because they really need the BCI or because it's providing them a critical practical advantage. It's just fun.
Right. I was actually trying to be a little. That was a joke because if you've ever seen Craig's TV, he's got 7 remotes, and you never know which one you need. So honestly, being able to think at Craig's TV would be a lot easier than actually having to use Craig's TV.
No, I'm only using one remote. I consolidated them all into one remote.
I see. So 6 of them are just decoys.
That's right.
You know, to throw off false positives.
That's right. They're not used anymore. They really.
That's why I don't use your TV.
I have a universal remote and everything just in the one, and it all works. But you know, but again, I mean, the point is probably even the more so if you have, you know, multiple remotes because you can't because you have really sophisticated equipment. I don't know if a BCI interface would be, but I'm sure we can find practical uses for healthy users where they were thinking something would be kind of cool. And also practical, because there is a difference between cool and practical. You know what works, and you know voice commands are okay in certain instances, and it might be impressive to show also. But when you're actually using it, then you're going to find yourself going to the more efficient method that you've been using rather than speaking it all the time. It all depends on the application, what you're doing. I would think, Brendan.
Very much, and that's one of the huge questions that we talk about is what is the killer app for BCIs? And many years, I mean, I can briefly trace it. In the early days, BCIs were mainly focused on spelling because that was a simple, easy application, and from that you can spell a lot of messages. And the target user was a person who was not able to move due to Lou Gehrig's disease or brainstem stroke or other conditions. However, more recently, there have been all these new applications that I mentioned, and it's an interesting question. You know, which one is most practical for which user and which circumstance? It's also a question of the hardware. I mean, which kinds of people would be inclined to put things on their heads? Well, people with gamer mics, people with Google Glass, people who perhaps need to wear a helmet as part of their job, military or pilots. So it is a fun discussion, but it's a pretty difficult one.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what about BCIs becoming more practical? I mean, you have things like dry electrodes and wireless systems. So what are some of the things that you're looking at?
Well, I actually came out with a book recently called Towards Practical BCIs. So for anyone interested, you can find it online. And in fact, the way that we dealt with that kind of answers the question. That is, we had one section that focused on electrodes and improved ways of sensing brain activity, and we had another section that focused on output, different applications. And as far as practical BCIs, certainly a big one is practical sensors, ways that you can get brain activity that work in any environment, even if the user is walking around or scratching his nose or riding on a subway or in a hospital room where you have really a lot of electrical noise. And I think that challenge, as I said, is there's been a lot of progress lately, but it would still be nice to improve the performance, the cost, and largely with microelectronics improvements, that's happening anyway. And then another big one is applications. So, how and why would a healthy user want to use brain signals? And I think the best answer to that is in what we call a hybrid BCI. That is, I don't think you'll see a lot of people using BCIs as pure standalone systems. You'll see BCIs that are combined with other ways to communicate. So if you have a gamer mic, well, you can already talk and you can push buttons on your microphone and things, and then in some situations you might want to use a signal from your brain or your eyes or other methods to interface with a computer.
Exactly. So where do you think we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left though.
Well, I have one last minute topic I think might be really interesting. We were talking a little bit about it before the show. Pets. I mean,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, it's just BCIs for humans is really neat. You want to tell us a little bit about some of the, let's say, major breakthroughs in trying to understand what the heck your dog's barking about?
Well, there is some different work on that. I know some people have looked at dog brain activity with EEG and fMRI. I don't really know what you could do with a BCI for dogs at this time. I know that there's a company that sells one, and I haven't seen their product. I personally am not active in any BCI research with anyone but human subjects. But yeah, I mean, thinking further in the future, I suppose you might be able to get BCIs that could get some information about at least the dog's overall alertness level. You might be able to get enthusiasm and such. But I think at this time, you wouldn't get much more than a dog owner could sense from just looking at your dog.
Yeah, that's a shame. I guess my dog's gonna have to keep on trying with the conventional method of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you go to the Computer America website at computeramerica.com and you go to our show notes page, right under the archives pull-down menu, you'll see today's show, the 17th of July. Excuse me, the 18th of July, and you'll see a link to the BCI. Come to G.Tec Medical. You'll see it there. You can click on it. You can check out the website. You can see all the components, and and explore this for yourself here on the show. Listen, Brendan, I want to thank you for being here on the Computer America show, and very interesting stuff. And love to touch base with you again in maybe another 6 months or something, and see how things are coming along with G.Tec. Okay?
Absolutely.
Hey, I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
All right, Brendan. Listen, thanks again for being here with
Thanks,
us
Brendan.
on the Computer America show. Have a good evening. And
You
good
too.
night. All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, there he goes. All right, it's Brendan with with G.Tec, and yeah, exactly. And if you have any more, as I say, any questions or you want to find out more, just check them out on the website at computeramerica.com. Okay. All right, so we got hour 2 of the show coming up, Aaron, and I understand you're going to be staying with me and doing computer and technology news.
There's also there's another guest who's going to be joining us, I think, for the second hour. We're working that out now. I don't know if he's reached out.
I don't know. So Chris said, has he passed the audio check at this point? Okay.
I mean, well, they're ready. I mean, I would love to have him on. It's another interesting guest.
Okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and do that momentarily here on the. We're not going to do the Google Hangout. We're just going to go in Skype, and we're just going to do it. Okay. Sure. All right. We got another hour of the Computer America show coming at you. We're going to have a company called SolePower on the air with us, talking about generating power with your feet, with your shoes. So it's called SolePower, not S-O-U-L, but S-O-L-E power. We're going to talk to them and see how they actually do this. We're going to break just for a short minute, and then we'll be right back. You listen to Computer America.
Broadcasting live. It's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America. Hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman. My co-host, Charles Tendell, wasn't feeling well, so he is about out of the show. He'll be back with us on Monday when we have OWC. OWC Larry is going to be joining us. But in the meantime, Aaron Crossman, my producer, is here with me for the second hour. And we're going to continue on. Hey, Aaron. Aaron, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. That's fine. Okay. So you're going to stay with me, and we're going to interview our next guest here on the show. But again, if you missed any portion of the first hour, or any portion, or any Computer America show, you can always listen to it again. Just go to Computer America. Under the archive section, you can listen to any of our shows. They're up there they're archived on Blog Talk Radio Network forever. Or you can even the videos are also archived there. We have the video archives. You can watch any show that you would like at your leisure. Again, from ComputerAmerica.com. Looks like the Computer America new chat room is working fine. We got a lot of people in there, and it looks working. Don't forget also that we're going to have our show reminder winner of the week coming up in the second half hour of the show. We'll be announcing the winner as well. But right now, we're going to go and talk about SolePower. Now, let me ask you this question. What if people could charge their phones by going for a walk? No electricity, no power outlets needed, no more dealing with dead phone batteries. Well, evidently this idea isn't too far-fetched. A fully funded Kickstarter campaign has already got them funding for a power-generating shoe insert. In other words, to work with any shoes. It's an insert that lets users charge portable devices like smartphones, music players, and GPS devices while they walk. Now, here with us is the CEO and co-founder of SolePower, Matt Stanton. Matt, welcome into Computer America. How are you tonight?
Hi, great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. So tell me a little bit about this. I mean, when I read this, I thought this is really cool. I mean, how did you get the idea for something like this? Where did this come from?
It started as a class project at Carnegie Mellon University. So we were just students at the time. The design prompt that we were given for a class we were in was to create a device that would help students around campus. We had a lot of really bad ideas throughout the course of the brainstorming. We tried to make water fountains flow faster. We tried a number of different really bad ideas, and half of them weren't even physically possible. But eventually, I came up with the idea of a power-generating shoe insole, which I'd been toying around with for a few years prior to that. Always being frustrated because there was movement there, there was ways. No one really doing anything with it which is still a major problem with devices today. So it really came from just a lack of being able to keep your phone charged through a typical student's 12 to 14-hour day when they're away from their home. But it originally started as a light-up shoe, so it wasn't intended to become a cell phone charger. We thought, hey, maybe we could get. But even with our proof of concept prototype, we were generating enough power that we could charge a cell phone with it. Cell phones don't take that much power to actually charge, so we could easily scavenge that from the walking motion.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about the actual product itself. This is a shoe insert, much like these Dr. Scholl things that you get. They go. You've seen those. You can actually get them, and they make you feel more comfortable when you walk. You put, and it's like it's an insert. It's usually got some sort of rubber or something, so it makes it more comfortable. So you can, for those. And this is along the same lines. It's some sort of a physical insert that you put into your shoe. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, it's absolutely just like that.
Right.
Instead of just being comfortable, it creates the power for you.
Yeah. So I guess that's my question. I mean, so you have this as you walk on it? It's going to generate electricity that does it store? It sends the power to a battery, or how does it get the power up to the battery? Is it do you have to have another wire coming out of your shoe, up your sock? How does this work?
Yeah, so it's a two-part system really. So you walk for a period of time, and that generates the power. The power is stored on a battery pack that is either fastened to your laces on your shoe or is attached to your ankle. So there's two different ways that you can actually have that power stored. And there's a thin wire that snakes up through your shoe and into the battery pack, and we've identified a sweet spot where you don't actually have any irritation at all. I hike and backpack a lot, and I've hiked over 120 miles at this point with the cord coming out of my shoe and into the battery pack. So I've done some pretty lengthy 35-mile hikes or so in a day that just to make sure that there wasn't going to be any issues and it would be comfortable for the end user. So yeah, once you have that power stored inside the battery, you can then take that battery off of your foot and plug it into your phone. We thought about running a wire up your leg or making the battery embedded within the insole itself. Then we realized no one's really going to want to handle a stinky insole to plug that into their phone or have a wire up their leg. So we surveyed a lot of potential customers to find the best possible solution for this.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's no way to transfer electrical power wirelessly, at least not practically. No, yeah, I know. They have induction and all these different technologies, but even induction has to be, within a few, maybe, a quarter of an inch away from the pad. Yeah. I mean, it's really not practical to do that. I mean, wireless
baby steps, Craig. Baby steps.
Yeah, wireless pun intended. But a wireless transmission of energy is certainly what was one of Tesla's dreams, but we haven't realized that yet, and have not found a real practical way of doing it. There are some very interesting experiments and work being done in that field, but right now it isn't there. So.
This is a very clever solution to the problem, though, of collecting the energy and storing it, and then at the end of your hike, when you got that battery fully charged, you can sit down, plug your phone in, and that's I'm sure that's very useful for someone who's out there hiking these really long trails that might be away from a reliable source of power for several days.
But what if you have an iPhone? Because the battery's not interchangeable with that.
Right. So it's not a cell phone battery. It's our own battery that's external. So it just plugs in via USB connection. So it's really for any USB compatible devices. We wanted to make it as versatile as possible. We're targeting the hikers and backpackers to start, but we wanted to make sure that all future technologies we could really branch out to. So we made it USB compatible so that people could plug in whatever devices they have next, whether it's wearable electronics or what have you. We wanted to make sure that people in the future could continue to use the device and adopt it. And we see this kind of branching off into larger markets instead of just the outdoor market. We see this getting into developing nations market where people don't have access to reliable power a lot of the time. And there's over 230 million people in sub-Saharan Africa alone who have cell phones but don't have access to don't have access to electricity, but have portable electronics. So we really see this as becoming a platform for the product and for people to solve their personal power problem.
Now, go ahead.
Matt, I was actually wondering. You had mentioned that it was really useful for people who are hiking or otherwise on the go. But as far as the rate of power generation, do you get more power stored up if you're running versus walking or hiking? What is the key factor that drives the power generation?
So it's a really interesting system. What we're using right now is for an hour of walking, you'll get 2.5 hours of talk time back on your smartphone. And we use an iPhone as kind of the benchmark for that because it's the more popular phone out there right now. So there's a number of different factors. Your weight goes into it, your stride length, how far you actually step with each step, I guess you could say. The way that your foot actually hits the ground, and whether you're actually leaving your feet. So the big variables in there are for us is just the sheer number of steps that you take, and that's going to dictate how fast you generate power. The weight, obviously, with more weight, there's more force, there's more power. But also, someone who weighs more also takes longer strides. So it's a very complex system. But based on the average person, let's say 150 pound, 5'9", which is kind of the average person as it's defined. For an hour of walking, they would get 2.5 hours of talk time out of the device.
Okay, so now you're saying it's not necessarily based on weight and size of the person, or are you saying the more heavy you are, the more electrical power you can generate?
Yeah. So the heavier you are, the more power you're going to generate for sure. So it is a complex. The main variables you're looking at is your weight, how far you step when you actually take a step, and how much of your weight is going directly into your heel. We've done a lot to make sure that it works with many different types of gaits, but heel strikers are going to be the ones that generate the most power.
Okay. So, all right. So basically, men are going to generate more power than women, are you saying?
Is that because men stomp around? I mean, be realistic. But I mean, this is definitely. I think it's really interesting that this idea was, came to students on a college campus, because I mean, I was just there a couple years ago, and I got to say, everyone's always rushing around. It definitely does come in handy when you're racing around campus, trying to keep everything charged.
You're away from home for a long period of time there.
Oh yeah. Have you tested this out with any larger devices besides cell phones? Could it also charge tablets or laptops? Anything with a little bit more power need?
Yeah. So you can't charge a laptop with the setup we have. What we say is anything you can charge off of your computer, you can charge with our device at this point. So you can. It's a standard 5-volt USB out. So anything that's USB compatible can be charged.
Okay.
All right. So most phones today have a USB or a micro USB, whereas and it's coming more and more part. So you're saying any USB or micro USB will work with this?
Yes.
Okay. Now the battery itself is on the shoelaces. It looks like, according to the drawing. Yeah. Did that turn out to be the best place, or did you want to put the battery on, let's say, on your ankle or some other location? Why did you choose the shoelaces to put that on?
So for the hiker market, the biggest concern people had was security of the device and that it wasn't going to fly off or get caught on things. And the most effective place for that was the shoelaces, so that's why we put it there first. We do have an ankle bracelet prototype at this point, and we're toying around with that idea now. That's definitely something that we're going to be using in the future as sort of a business professional model for people who want to just tuck it under their dress pants so it's hidden.
Now, Jonathan in the chat room wants to know if this needs to be waterproof, in case you get caught in the rain. And then Jack also wants to know if they're washable, and he says, why. So
yeah, so it's definitely waterproof. We've been doing a lot of waterproof testing the last couple of days on our battery packs to make sure that they're going to live up to what an outdoorsman does with their feet, kick around rocks, twigs, sticks, and beat it up, really. So it's definitely waterproof, and it's a really rugged battery pack. The fabric there is absolutely washable. You know, it's just a standard fabric pouch that holds that to your shoe.
Mm-hmm. And the battery itself, I mean, does it keep the battery dry? I mean, when you put it in that little holder.
Yeah. So the battery pack itself is waterproof. So whether you are charging your device or not, all the ports coming out of that battery pack are waterproof. So you can fully submerge your foot in water and you won't have any issues.
Okay, so not only water, but I mean, like, you know, other things that get wet, like mud, for example. I mean, let's say you're doing mud wrestling or something, and you know, I mean, what?
Yeah.
Or you're crossing a stream and there's a lot of water and dirt.
Yeah. It's what in the technical specification is IP67. So that's ingress protection is kind of the jargon that's used in industry. So that means that it's fully dustproof and fully waterproof.
Okay. So now I know you've been fully funded for this. On your Kickstarter page, I mean, you actually I'm trying to find your Kickstarter page. I thought I had the link, but it's not there. But you received how fast did you get your funding, and can tell me a little bit about how that worked for you?
Yeah, so Kickstarter it's an adventure. You have to get out to a ton of media outlets to actually get the goal. I mean, it's the more people who see it, the more people who are willing to back it. So there's a huge push to get out to, you know, the big one that we got was Outside Magazine, Mashable, and a few other tech blogs picked us up. But then at the end, we really kind of hit a stall point, as a lot of Kickstarters do in the middle of the campaign. You end up hitting a pretty flat area where you haven't hit your goal yet, but you're trying to reach it by getting more media outlets. We got picked up by CNET, and that really was a straight line that took us off to the finish line for that campaign.
Right. Well, it
was a great time.
Yeah, I see you had a $50,000 goal, which you were pledged. You got 637 backers, and you raised 60,184. So you actually got better than. Were you surprised, or were you losing hope, or I mean, when you saw it before you got the CNET, I mean, what were your feelings when you were doing the Kickstarter campaign?
There's definitely anxiety throughout the entirety of the Kickstarter campaign because it's a very public. Here we are. We're getting pre-orders now. We were surprised because we actually had the Kickstarter launch a year and a half before we promised to deliver product. So people were actually willing to pay and purchase for the product a full year and a half before expected delivery. So that was the big surprise for us. We were trying to really validate the price points and find out what people were willing to pay for the product. And it was validation for us because it really showed us, you know, hey, people are willing to pay for this product, and they're willing to pay for it a year and a half out, which is outstanding.
Okay, so where do you stand now? I mean, now that you had the funding and everything, how long or what is your because you got fully funded at what on the 18th of July 2013, so literally a year from today.
A year today, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the next step? Again, pun intended. Here, what are your plans?
Yeah, so we're working through our manufacturing now. We've ran through a few iterations on the prototype since then. Ready to launch the product in August. You know, we're heading to the Outdoor Retail Trade Show. We'll be unveiling the product. So that's going to be our big launch event. We'll be delivering units at the end of the year for our Kickstarters and working to get product into retail for the following spring. So that's really the push, is to get it into retail. You know, in March or April of next year for the spring release, and get it into online retailers along the way, so we can start generating revenue from SolePower, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, not only generating electricity and revenue.
And revenue, yeah.
Would be nice. So let me ask you this. So, and Addison in the chat room asked an excellent question. He says, right now a lot of backpackers are using solar to recharge their phone. So he wants to know how SolePower will be better than solar.
All right, so
or different.
So solar, it's a great technology. I mean, the sun's there, but when the sun isn't there, you're kind of you're out of luck. I mean, I'm from Pittsburgh, where it's rainy most of the time, or when you're hiking, you're under canopies. So solar actually drops to 20% or below efficiency when you're not in direct sunlight. So that 1 watt solar panel that you're carrying on your back really isn't doing much for you. So we're actually at the point where we're hitting mid-grade solar kind of output level. So say 5 watts is what the mid-grade does, and that's what our new one is comparable to in its cloudy conditions, if you will. So it's just a more reliable system. And honestly, there's been many people who we've talked to who said, well, I'm not going to get rid of my solar panel, but I'll definitely add SolePower to my pack, and I'll just have 2 energy generating devices on me. So it's really kind of the Boy Scout motto in the outdoor world, where it's always be prepared. So if you can have a backup to your backup, that's just better, as long as you're not adding weight to your pack.
Okay. All right. So so that was the solar power. Obviously, the sun is not always out. Makes a lot of sense. Whereas long as you're walking, you're generating power. Could you use solar power, let's say, if you're riding a bicycle? I mean, would that work too?
It's a very common question, actually. So it wouldn't work as well because you're not getting that hard heel strike. And if you're on a bike, there's a lot of other ways to generate power. Even going back to just the dynamos that spun on the hubs of wheels.
Oh yeah.
There's tons of other ways to generate power that are much easier than putting it in an insole. It's a pretty hard engineering task to get it into the insole, and then if you're trying to put it into the toe of the insole, it's another step forward in that process.
Yes.
So it's we're not working on a bike model right now because it's
yeah, you can't help those puns. Another step forward. You just you can't get away from them. But all right. So and I can understand that. I can see that. Because if you're into something like SolePower, you're obviously going to have something on your bike too. So when you're in your bike, you can charge using the wheels and the bicycle. It's obviously more efficient. But if you're hiking or camping or backpacking when you're not really using a bike, then this would obviously be an ideal way. Because also when you're hiking or you're camping, there are trees overhead, you're in a forest, that type of thing, so you don't get direct. The only time you're going to get direct sunlight is if you're in a like a more desert area where there were no trees, or on the beach or something along those lines. But now, how long does it take? How much time? Let's say if you're jogging, for example, or as opposed to walking, how much time do you have to spend using SolePower before you get a full charge? And what do you consider to be a full charge?
Yeah, so we're considering an iPhone to be a full charge, so roughly 1,500 milliamp hours. So if you're jogging, you'll be generating more power. So you're looking at something along the lines of, so let's quick math there, because we really talk about this now. It's just an hour of walking gives you 2.5 hours of talk time. It's a very friendly metric for people to think about. But it would turn out to be, so there's 10 hours of talk time. So about 4 hours of walking would give you, or jogging would give you roughly a full iPhone.
Okay. So just 1 hour of walking will give you a full charge on an iPhone.
I think so 4 hours.
1 hour will give you 2.5 hours of talk time.
Oh, okay.
4 hours will give you the full phone back.
All right. So walking for 4 hours will give you a full iPhone recharge. So, and the process would be, I would be walking for 4 hours, and then I would reach down, pull the battery off the shoelaces, and then what? Then plug, and then transfer the power to the iPhone. How would that work?
So it's just a simple cord connection. So you would take your standard USB cord that you plug into your computer or your wall outlet.
Okay.
And then you plug that into our battery pack.
Okay. All right.
Matt, if it's let's say you're someone who hikes for more than 4 hours at a stretch, is it possible to hook up 2 battery packs, or can you get a second battery pack and
one on each shoe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now
that's our expanded SKU. So we'll have 3 SKUs when we actually market.
So now, do you have a left foot one and a right foot one, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that's kind of with the three SKUs. So we have as the product's called the N-Sol, so energy insole, kind of
Right.
merge them together, keeping with the puns. And then we have an N-Sol, an N-Sol squared, and a spare battery pack. So the N-Sol is a power generating insole, a balancing insole, and a battery pack. So the balancing insole doesn't generate power. It's just there to maintain your proper walking motion and make sure you're balanced.
That's right, because if you have insole in one, I never thought of that. You have an insole in one shoe, and you're going to feel kind of
right.
It's going to feel weird. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
The N-Sol squared has 2 battery packs and 2 N-Sols.
Okay. Now, does so in other words, so the N-Sol square, it's I have two, the left and the right foot would both be charging then.
Correct.
And then I would have a battery pack on each shoe.
Correct.
Okay. So I wouldn't need the balancing sole then. I would just need the just the 2 power.
And you can charge both your iPhones.
Yep.
Now, I was kidding around, but is there a left and a right insole, or they both work in the same?
There's a left and a right. I mean, it's the same as you wouldn't get 2 right Dr. Scholl's in a pack.
Okay.
You need a left and a right there. Yeah.
All right. So now these are just are they make you feel more comfortable, or are they padded or in any way, or does that help? Or
yeah, so we're comfort testing to make sure that no matter how far you walk, you're always going to be comfortable, and we're accommodating as many feet to start as we can. So we're working on the next lines where there's going to be the high arch, low arch, regular arch, because everyone has different feet. So it's a very interesting problem to tackle.
Have you ever thought of approaching someone like a company like Dr. Scholl's and saying, hey, we'll have a Dr. Scholl's version of this SolePower? Have you ever entertained that or thought of that?
Yeah, we've talked to a lot of different established companies about working with our product. It's cool because we get to talk to a lot of really well-established companies who just don't know what to do with it yet. They know they want to incorporate it somehow, but they're not sure what to do with it yet. So we're going to plug away and get it out there for the consumers to use their phones and work with these potential partners to really make SolePower a platform for technologies to come.
I mean, I could see let's say, like they have the Energizer version that'll make you feel better and energize your batteries at the same time. The Energizer SolePower or something. Or
just got to put them in bunny slippers.
Bunny slippers, or again, Dr. Scholl's. Put them out and make you feel better, and at the same time you get you an electric charge. There's a slogan in there somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I can see any ad guy could probably come up with something that would. But you say you're exploring that. You just want to get out the version first commercially, see how well it does, and then at that point you can come back to these companies and say, hey, look, why don't you do a branded version of SolePower, with us or something along those lines. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, listen, again, I want to thank you, Matt, for being here with us. And again, you can see the website. Just go to our show notes at computeramerica.com on today's show, which is July the 18th, in the second hour, the first half. And you can check out the website. And as I said, they're fully funded, so there's no more Kickstarter. But yeah.
If since the Kickstarter is fully funded, if someone did want to try to get a hold of one of these SolePowers, is there still a way that they can contribute to the project?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website, solepowertech.com, click on Buy Now, and sign up for our wait list for the pre-orders.
There it is. Okay, and again, we have that link at computeramerica.com under our show notes page.
Awesome.
Matt, thanks so much for being with here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of fun, and best of luck to you on the show. Okay. All right, well, take care. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
All right, so there it is, SolePower. Again, I think it's very novel, very different, and you can try it for yourself. Now, coming up a little bit later, coming up in the show, we're going to have computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, and some of the stories that we're coming up. Netflix is testing a privacy feature, and to help you hide your embarrassing viewing habits.
Oh no, my hours of cat videos. That's good. I'm glad no one's going to be keeping an eye on that anymore.
Yeah. Other stories coming up. Americans don't want small Windows tablets, but that's who said that? A larger PC maker. So we'll find out what's going on there. And also, a one-word messaging app is valued up to $10 million. Big grief. Also, Google is experimenting with a major redesign of the Chrome OS. Some of the stories that we're going to be talking about in hour 2 of the Computer America Show. Also, we have our show reminder of the week coming up, so we'll be announcing that winner. We have a news tips bulletin from Marty Winston that's coming up as well. You're listening to the Computer America Show. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 120,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy and major car companies filing for bankruptcy, Cover America Auto Care has announced revolutionary, inexpensive mechanical breakdown coverage that is now available to the general public to save consumers thousands on auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for drivers to call who own a vehicle that is less than 10 years old for a free 5-minute quote and to see if you qualify. The number is 800-483-2514. Drivers who are covered with this auto protection will not have to pay for a covered repair again. This is the auto coverage now sweeping across America at a fraction of what dealerships charge and is now available to the public by calling today. The number to call is 800-483-2514. 800-483-2514. That's 800-483-2514.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-866-663-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So, disable the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99 and up to 4 rooms. And there's no equipment to buy. That includes your free HD TV upgrade, your free DVR upgrade, and your free 1-866-663-MY-TV. Card. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV. 1-866-663-MY-TV. Disable the cable, cut costs, and get more. Call 1-866-663-MY-TV.
1-866-663-MY-TV. Salutations. This is Marty Winston for Computer America with a news tips bulletin review of Duck brand professional electrical tape. Back in ancient times, when we first worked with electronics and electricity, we tried not to use wire nuts. Some of the low power, low impedance connections, like intercom speaker wires, just got twisted, sometimes soldered, sometimes not, then wrapped with vinyl electrical tape. In those hobby days, we might go through a roll or two per month. Of late, that might hold us for a year or several. When we ran into Duck Professional Electrical Tape, we wanted to take a look at what's changed. One thing we noticed is that 600-volt rated tape is now good to 80 degrees centigrade or 176 degrees Fahrenheit. In a way that means a tight wrap might be somewhat self-securing even without the adhesive, but that adhesive seems more tenacious and less vulnerable to loss of efficacy even after repeated contact with finger oils. Oops. Bottom line, Duck Professional Electrical Tape works so well now that we wish we'd been able to get it back then. This is Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
Thanks so much for that, Marty. And we're going to have a brand new news tips bulletin. We actually have 2 every week. So coming Monday, we'll have 2 new bulletins for you to enjoy. He does I really like his segments. They are very informative. I remember using electrical tape way back when, and
you know, people still use tape, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Duck electrical tape. I actually just got a hold of some. It comes in all different colors now. It's actually probably more useful than just for taping two things together. You can, identify different things by different patches of tape.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Pretty
This
neat
is
stuff.
but it's electrical tape. I mean, it's thin. It's not like duct tape. It's their duct electrical tape, and it has these. As you described, it has some interesting properties, and I plan to go out and get a roll just to see how it works.
Sure.
Anyway, we're in the second half hour of the show here on Computer America, and I said we're going to have some computer news and stuff. Just quickly, again, yeah, we have this limited offer that we're doing from ProXPN, and I just want to mention it because it's almost over. If you go to our homepage at computeramerica.com, you'll see the right there on our homepage on the left-hand side there, you'll see it, and I want you to click on it, and it talks about ProXPN and what it can do for you. Because whenever you go online these days, you and your computer, are at the risk of having your privacy being compromised. And you think, oh, well, it's only when I use an open Wi-Fi connection like at Starbucks or a bookstore. But no, even when you're at home, Internet service providers can monitor where you go and what you do. How about, you know about this, Aaron, right? And
I just did some research on the topic for some articles for the show, and it's definitely a concern for people who are active in the online community, and really anyone would be able to benefit from software like this.
Yeah, I mean, because if you do something that exceeds their guidelines, whatever those might be, they can actually block whatever it is you're doing, or if you're looking at content from other countries, that's susceptible to being restricted. But with ProXPN, you don't have to worry about any of that. ProXPN is an open VPN solution hosted not only here in the U.S. but globally, like Amsterdam and Singapore and London. So when you're online, you actually appear as though you're located in those cities. ProXPN is 100% secure. I use it. I use it. It's got a very impressive 2048-bit encryption. The tunnel is 512 bits. This is the way that the internet was intended to be. You're on there. They don't know who you are, and they shouldn't know who you are. You're completely anonymous. It even adds open VPN to your Android phones, which it doesn't have, so you don't have to use point-to-point tunneling protocol. Of course, ProXPN will let you use PPTP because if you like, because it supports it as well. Look, here's the thing. We want you to use ProXPN. And we want you to try it for yourself, so whenever and wherever you go online, your privacy is protected. So, I mean, if you have a Mac or a Windows, doesn't matter, they have versions for both. You can even do some really sophisticated stuff. You can select ports. You can connect at startup. Here's something really cool. You can select which programs should be shut down just in case your VPN connection goes down and your anonymity has been compromised. So if you're using your browser, Chrome or Firefox, and for some of the VPN goes down for whatever reason, the browser closes. I mean, you can set it up to do that. It's very, very slick. So here's the deal. You can download ProXPN for free and use it, but the premium version really is so much faster and better. Normally it's just $10 a month or $75 a year, but if you enter in the code COMPAM, C-O-M-P-A-M, you'll get an additional 20% off membership. And once you do that, by the way, it's good forever, not just the one time. So that's less than $5 a month when you go for the yearly plan. Look, you need this if you ever go online, and if you listen to the show, you know you need this. So again, just go to our website and you'll see the ProXPN offer. It'll take you to the special ProXPN page. Just click anywhere on that page, put in the code COMPAM. You'll see all the COMPAM. You'll see all the values drop down, so you're saving 20% off your membership. And then again, that's forever. All right. Do it now. ProXPN for life. All right. So I think we're gonna start doing some computer news here, and we'll get started with some interesting stories. So let's do the news. Tonight's computer and technology news is brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. You can visit them at slimwareutilities.com to clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system for free. That's right. Everything at the slimwareutilities.com website is completely free. It's not like a freemium model. You use it for 20 days and then you have to buy the thing. No. They don't give you a crippled version or no, it doesn't work out like that. It's completely free. They're all free, and they will clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system. Just head over to slimwareutilities.com. Download them all. We use them here. I use them here. They're terrific. They should be in your toolbox, so whenever you need them to run them, they're there, and you'll be happy that you did that, and you'll thank us for it. Slimwareutilities.com. All right, so starting off the computer news, Netflix tests privacy feature to help hide your embarrassing viewing habits. This is from Mashable. So evidently, Netflix is giving you some of you permission to have a one-night stand with your favorite bad movie. Okay. The company is testing a private viewing feature that allows users to hide a movie or show from their viewing history and recommendations. Because it does that. Usually you'll go on there and it'll say, well, you watched this movie and that movie, and so we recommend that you watch this movie. No. Yeah. Okay. So you don't want your wife to say if you're watching something that is questionable, you don't want your wife to say, well, honey, why were you watching this when you have me? You don't want to hear these questions. So.
That, or I have that one guilty pleasure of that one Spanish soap opera that I just don't want anyone to know.
That's right. Exactly.
That I can't get enough of that fake drama, and
so.
But just that one show. So if I had this feature, I wouldn't have to suffer through ads for dozens of others.
Yeah, when you curl up,
there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, when you curl up with a long watch 27 dresses on a Friday night, you can be sure your roommate or spouse or parents or whoever else you share your account with won't see the remnants of your shameful viewing habits.
Sure.
The new feature was first reported by GigaOM. Also excludes your selection from its recommendation technology, meaning you won't spend the next 2 weeks with reminders of the late-night mistake you made when you caved and watched Failure to Launch again. Okay. The feature also hides your viewing history from Facebook if you've linked your account with Netflix. After all, nothing generates snarky comments quite like an update that you finally finished Season 3 of Pretty Little Liars. Netflix says that the test will roll out to territories around the globe, but not all users will get the update. There's also a chance that it may never become a permanent feature. Aww. For those users who fall into the test group, the rest of us would like to borrow your login. There you go. I mean, are there things in movies that you watch that you don't want anybody else to know that you're watching? I mean, I guess that.
I thought we valued privacy here at the Computer America Show.
Yeah, so did I.
No, it's actually Ben has the Netflix account, so that might be something that would really interest him. You should mention it to him next time he's on the show.
I will. Hey, you haven't commented. How do you like, or are you? How do you like the new chat room? What do you think?
I do like it. It's an IRC chat, so of course it's gonna be very functional. But I also enjoy that it's a little retro. I used an IRC chat, years ago, and I really do enjoy the Courier new font, and it's great.
Well, you can load like a plugin for your browser, like it's called Chatzilla, for example, and then you can get all the little fancy formatting, and it's just not the more vanilla version that you see in a web browser. So it has a little bit more formatting, and you can do more things like that. So, but I'm still concerned. We're going to try it out because I don't want to abandon add-on chat if I can, because add-on chat. Yeah. Well, but see, add-on chat is Java, and I hate Java. It just.
Well, this is an IRC chat, and this system has a lot of commands that are very useful for like sending messages. That was something I enjoyed about the old system, was you could right-click someone and send them a message. This is also capable of doing that, but I think it might help on the website just beneath the chat frame to put a list of common commands that might be helpful.
Yeah, I don't know if it allows you to do that. We might have.
Well, no. It would be like. Yeah. You would edit the website. You wouldn't edit this
That's
program.
Right. Well, we're experimenting. We're going to see how it works. If not, we'll just go back to add-on chat. They're promising eventually they're going to go to an HTML5 version and get away from Java. That would be the best of all worlds. But we'll have to wait and see.
Sure.
All right.
I have a news story.
Yeah, pick one. What do you got?
Sure. Well, I found a story that it's an article. It's actually posted up on Wikipedia. So, It's a press release by Wikipedia. So anyone who benefits, I personally love just going from page to page on Wikipedia and learning a dozen new things before I crash for the day. But there's going to be many more new things to learn here coming up soon, because it looks like the National Archives and Record Administration has agreed to share all of its data with Wikipedia and to make it available online. So all of the records that are being safeguarded by our government for, posterity, or just anything that the National Archives is holding, they're going to be uploading copies of it to Wikipedia, and it's being facilitated by, the article I think says, like, volunteer programmers. So they're soliciting help from online programming communities to sort of develop bits of code that would go through all of the archives and sort of, scavenge and compile the metadata to make it readable on Wikipedia. But I think it is really exciting that we're about to, sort of have, much greater access to a lot of our nation's, information and documents and everything that we the citizen, we the people should be able to get a chance to appreciate.
Okay. All right.
That's something to look forward to in the near future.
Yeah. All right. Now, this story from The Verge is Americans don't want small window tablets, says Lenovo. Okay. And evidently, Lenovo stopped selling 2 of its smallest window tablets in the U.S.
Some of the smallest tablets?
Yeah, small Windows tablets have gotten a cool response from U.S. customers, according to Lenovo today. They said this. Lenovo currently manufactures 2 8-inch Windows 8 tablets, the ThinkPad 8 and the Mix 2, which have both been available for a number of months, though the larger versions have fared better. In North America, we're seeing stronger interest in the larger screen sizes for Windows tablets, are pleased with initial customer demand for the ThinkPad 10, according to a Lenovo spokesperson in a statement to PC World. While the ThinkPad 8 has been popular in Brazil, China, and Japan, the lack of demand in the U.S. means it's no longer on sale.
This is a branding issue. If they had branded this as a gigantic cell phone, that would have had a much greater reception. Have you seen the new Nokia cell phone, the really large model? It's gigantic. You could eat your dinner off of it. It's so big. So, I mean, I think just like they said, the larger tablet is flying off the shelf, but the smaller one nobody's really interested in. I think if they had gone a different direction, and said this was, even a really large e-reader or some other device that they could brand it as a larger version, Americans would be all over that.
Well, did you see the from BlackBerry, the new, is it the Passport? Did you see that?
I did see they were coming out with a new model.
Yeah, it's almost square. I mean, and they're hoping that's going to catch on to the business community.
Oh yeah. Was this the model they came out with that did away with the old keyboard and now it's gonna be like a touchscreen keyboard?
No. This
one does have a new keyboard.
Yeah, a keyboard. Yeah, it's called the Passport, I believe. Yeah, exactly. Sure. And you just take a look at the picture of it. It's unusual. It's square and it's large, but it's a phone. It's not a phablet, but it's a large cell phone. They say it's gonna do well with it.
Sure.
Okay, you pick one of my other stories that I sent you.
I've actually found a couple of my own to talk about, if that's all right.
All right, sure, go ahead.
All right, here's a Pop Science article I think is really interesting. You're gonna really appreciate this because, lately I've been really trying to find stories and guests that are, cutting edge of science. And here I think this research brings us one step closer to the what was it called in Star Trek where it would generate something out of nothing? Like,
replicator, you mean?
Yes, Earl Grey tea, hot, It appears 2 scientists have been able to prove Einstein very much correct. He always said energy and matter were interrelated. Well, one of the most important ideas of that theory is you can create matter just from energy. And these scientists were able to take high energy light and align the photons so they combine in such a way that creates electrons and positrons, the opposite of an electron. And what that means is, light is it's basically just energy, and they found a way to smash light together to create matter. And
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is. I mean, like you could just take this out just a little bit further, and soon you're talking about what thing you're making out of just light.
Wow.
I mean,
you can make a cup of coffee or whatever.
Or hot Earl Grey tea. You know, or you know, you can make a 3D printer out of light and then make anything with it, right? So
Make a 3D printer from light. Yes, exactly.
exactly. You could just magic. This is approaching magic right here. You know.
It would be exactly. How did they get that printer in the box? Well, we
magicked it in there. So that's really exciting.
Yeah. Now you're the chemist, so this is even more exciting to you, I would think. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh man, I can't get enough of this stuff.
All
all I have for tonight, though. But well, I have other stories, but that's all the pop science I have.
Well, Engadget's got a story. Google is experimenting with a major redesign of its Chrome operating system. Okay, Google has made attempts in the past to unify the design of its various properties with varying degrees of success. Material design, which is a major part of the upcoming Android L release, may be its most coherent effort to date. The new look is expected to touch every corner of Google's catalog, and Chrome OS will be part of that revamp. A screenshot posted by Chromium on Google Plus shows the very early fruits of Athena, an effort to bring a new kind of user experience to Google's desktop OS. The image shows windows with minimal controls and decoration in a stacked card view, similar to the app switcher revealed as part of the next Android update. There's also what appears to be a launcher bar with a search field at the bottom of the screen. While the redesign is clearly in the very early stages, you can see the important elements of material design at work. Everything is flat and paper-like, but exists in a three-dimensional space, complete with less than subtle drop shadows. You can compile a copy of Chromium OS yourself to give Athena a test run, but we'd hold out for a more complete version. But there it is. It looks kind of interesting.
Okay. So this is a new version of their operating system, not their web browser. Or I mean, probably include the web browser too.
Yeah, we'll include the web browser, but yeah, it's their operating system.
Okay.
Hey, listen, I just realized we need to do our show reminder winner of the week. We haven't announced them yet, so yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So hang on to your hats, folks, and here's the winner. This week's show reminder winner is Wendy McBride. Wendy McBride, you are this week's show reminder winner. Wendy wins the Logitech wireless rechargeable touchpad T650. It's got this large, smooth glass surface. It gives your fingers the freedom to perform up to 13 unique Windows 8 gestures. It's valued at $80. So congratulations to you, Wendy McBride, for being this week's show reminder winner. And again, if you want to get in the contest, just head over to our website at computeramerica.com. Just go to the first pull-down menu, and you'll see our contest page. Just click on it, and you'll see our show reminder winner. You just have to subscribe to our email show reminder newsletter. It's completely free, no obligation. And it's the only publication in the entire universe where you can find out who's going to be on the Computer America show for the entire week. Okay, and it's really simple to do. You just put your email address and your first and last name. And again, don't worry about it because it's completely private. We give this information out to no one, nobody. Okay, and then at the end of the week, we from that list of names we draw a winning name to win a really nice prize from Logitech, just like Wendy McBride did. She got that Logitech wireless rechargeable touchpad T650. Also, we have our other contest. We have our other Logitech contest in there. All the instructions on how to win are in there. Just head over to our contest page at computeramerica.com. Enter in all of our contests. You'll have a lot of fun doing it, and who knows? You might win something really, really nice. So again, congratulations to you, Wendy McBride, as being our show reminder winner of the week. Okay, so right now we're doing computer and technology news, brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. And did you say you had another story you wanted to do?
Sure. This is actually one that I found really, I'm really looking forward to this. It looks like, I'm a computer enthusiast. I love putting them together. I love working with them. Mm-hmm. And when solid states came out, it was really great for the enthusiast community because it would give you a smaller hard drive from which to install your operating system on, and you could use the larger conventional hard drives that have the more capacity to store your information. Well, it looks like SanDisk is coming out with a 4 terabyte solid state drive. and they're going to follow that up with an 8 terabyte and a 16 terabyte model. That's right.
Wow, that's
I know.
huge.
A 16 terabyte solid state drive. I
What
don't
is
even
that
know.
gonna cost?
I have no idea, but could you imagine something that's 8 times larger than a large conventional drive and as fast as a solid state? Like, I mean, I know.
You know, I mean, we're hearing about it now, but you know, again, it's going to happen. You know, it's like anything else. We're seeing the progression of this. We're just going to, of course, initially I'm sure the cost is going to be high, but eventually it'll be coming down. I mean, now you can buy a 1 terabyte, you can buy a 4 terabyte hard drive now for under $100. Under $100.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I've been paying like $80 for 2 terabytes. I'm being cheated.
Well, how do you think the people were buying 1 gigabyte drives? You know,
Oh man, I'm actually I'm not quite sure what I'm. It's those gamer enthusiasts who bought all those 50 or 500 gig Raptor hard drives that were really fast like 10 years ago, and then they came out with the solid states and made them all way obsolete. So, I mean, you just look at this progression, and it's the next time we talk about hard drives, we are already going to be outdated. That's just how fast this is developing.
Yeah, I mean, the terabyte's going to now. Eventually, we'll get to 1,000 terabytes. We'll have our first petabyte drive.
Man,
what are we going to do with all that storage? My gosh,
more and more high definition videos to hide on our Netflix accounts.
Evidently.
Yeah.
We got time maybe for one more story. Dell is now accepting Bitcoin for all online U.S. purchases. That's up today.
Oh.
Dell now accepts Bitcoin in the U.S. for online purchases of its products. The move is a win for Coinbase, which today on its blog announced that it was the integration partner for the personal computing company. Overstock.com and online technology marketplace Tiger Direct also now accept cryptocurrency. The price of Bitcoin, long a driver of media and public interest in the stuff, has been quieter lately, leading to the less commotion regarding the currency. To spur interest, Dell will sell its gaming-focused Alienware products for a period of time at a 10% discount, provided that users make the purchase in Bitcoin. Isn't that something? Wow.
That's actually a great segue into the next show. On Monday we're having ASIC Rudder on as a guest.
Yeah.
And they do Bitcoin mining for the home user. So I mean, it's definitely something to mention with that guest.
Yes, and they'll be on in the second hour of the show from 11 p.m. to midnight. Which is atypical of us, but we're going to have our guests in the second hour, and of course in the first hour we'll have computer and technology news brought to you by Slim Radio Utilities. But let me finish the story.
Sure.
You see, Dell is merely another player in the larger Bitcoin ecosystem, a network that will require far wider buy-in from non-technology facing companies if it wants to grow into the potential that so many have laid out for it. He said, the reporter said, I asked Dell if the decision to accept Bitcoin was more driven by its own interest or by consumer demand. He says, if I hear back, I'll update this post. And evidently, they responded to TechCrunch and indicated that its decision to accept Bitcoin was, in fact, due to consumer interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For now, though, a nice day for Bitcoin and a nice day for Dell and a nice day for, all the other companies. Dell, of course, a company that has been somewhat off the grid since it went private late last year. But there it is. Dell now accepts Bitcoin for all online U.S. purchases. So there you go. So that about wraps up the show. Listen, so Aaron, it was a lot of fun having you here on the show. I know that you wanted to talk about the brain-computer interface, and was it everything that you hoped for it to be?
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's one of those devices that is just going to continue to grow and surprise everyone.
I think so.
And hey, yeah.
Well, let me do this.
90 seconds.
And again, it looks like our new chat room is working out, so I think we'll keep the chat room for a while longer. Coming up Tuesday, by the way, we won't have a live show. We're going to have a best of show. And then we'll be back with Intel is going to be our guest. Intel sponsor hour in the first hour of the show coming up on the program. They are. We're looking forward to having them back on the show. They were supposed to be last week, but they couldn't make it, so we're swapped them. So they'll be. And again, just get our show reminder. Our show reminder tells you who's going to be on the show and all the topics. It's all there. Anyway, have a great weekend. Get out there, catch a movie. I know I'm going to go see Lucy, but that won't be until next week. I'm looking forward to that movie. When she gets to use 100% of her brain. See what happens then. That about wraps it up. So have a great week, a great weekend, and Charles Tyndall is going to be back with me on Monday. No, excuse me. Ben's going to be back with me on Monday night. So we'll see you on Monday night. So until Monday night, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday night.
10 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
All right, and thanks everybody for participating on our live computer video streaming page brought to you by Otherworld Computing, and have a great weekend, and hopefully you all like the new chat room, and see you all Monday. Have a great hope you like. Okay. Bye. Okay. And that's it. Okay. All right, and we're out. See you all again. Bye-bye.